Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Success Academy. I'm Ashen, and in this video, we are going to talk about the speaking test in detail. We're going to talk about the different sections of the speaking test. We are also going to look at the marking criteria, and then we are also going to discuss a few tips that will help you get to a better band score in the speaking test. So without further ado, let's dive straight in to the video. Okay, so when you take the speaking test, there are three sections that you need to face. You have part 1, which is a self-introduction or an interview about yourself. In this section, about 10 to 12 questions will be asked regarding yourself. So every answer that you give, you have to answer using your personal experiences, answers pertaining to your own life. This section is the most easiest, and honestly, the reason that this section exists is to help you warm up, is to help you get into the groove of speaking. Because a lot of people find speaking in front of an audience quite difficult. An audience might even mean one person, and speaking in front of this examiner might be quite a daunting experience. So this section, part 1, is honestly just an opportunity for you to relax, calm down, and get into the groove of speaking so that you can answer part 2 and 3 in a more confident way. In this section, make sure that you're not too stressed. You're giving answers in a very straightforward way. Ideally, don't answer in one word or one sentence. Try to at least say 2 to 3 sentences where possible, and a maximum of about 5 to 6 sentences would be more than enough. You're not expected to elaborate too much in part 1, but if it is an open-ended question and you do have a good experience to speak about, don't stress too much. You can talk for a longer period of time. If you are going over time, the examiner will stop you. If the examiner stops you, there's nothing bad, there's nothing wrong in what you said. It's just that they have to stick to a time limit, so they will stop you and move forward. But ideally, 2 to 5 sentences would be the ideal amount here. Next, we move on to part 2. This is where you will get a cue card with a short topic in order for you to deliver an impromptu speech. It's basically a short talk of about 2 minutes that you have to speak on the given topic. Aside from the topic, they also give you a few pointers so that it's easier for you to elaborate when you are speaking. During this time, you will also get a piece of paper as well as a pencil, and you can jot down some notes of your own so that aside from the points that they have given, you also have something to talk about. So as the video progresses, we'll discuss what you need to write on this piece of paper and how you can elaborate on this impromptu speech. Finally, we go on to part 3. This is where you will be asked questions from the same theme as the part 2 topic. What this means is you're not going to be questioned from what you spoke about in part 2. Instead, you're going to be questioned from the same theme as the topic you got in part 2. What that basically means is something like this. For part 2, if you got a question to speak about your favorite wild animal, all right, that was the topic. So the overall theme is wild animals. Your questions in part 3 will be under that theme, wild animals. Now in part 2, if you decided to speak about a lion, you won't necessarily be questioned about the lion. There will be a set number of questions that the examiner has, which they will ask you under that theme. Maybe 1 or 2 questions might be thrown in from what you spoke about, but more often than not, you will be asked a list of set questions that the examiner has under that same theme. So these are the 3 parts that you have to face when it comes to your IELTS speaking test. Next, we look at the marking criteria. There are 4 marking criteria that we have to consider in the speaking test. Number 1, we have to look at our coherence and fluency. When we talk about coherence, coherence is your overall structure. Are you speaking according to an order? Are you speaking according to a structure? Or are you just haphazardly bringing points from here and there, from everywhere, without following a proper pattern? If that's the case, your marks will be deducted. But if you follow a pattern or if you follow a structure, you will be awarded a higher band score. Ideally, an introduction, body and conclusion during your part 2 impromptu talk, as well as making sure that all your answers are directly connected to the question during your part 1 and part 3 answers would be enough to get you to a high band score under this marking criteria, coherence. Fluency is probably the most important marking criteria. So let me just put a hold on that and let me get to it at the end. Let me discuss the other 3 and then let me get to fluency at the end. The second marking criteria that you have to be very careful about, and it's very important, it's lexical resources or the use of quality vocabulary, the use of good lexical resources. The better your vocabulary, the better language that you use, the more synonyms that you use, the more quality your words are, the more your band score is going to be. If your language is very basic and you're just using very simple sentences, very simple words instead of compound or complex words and sentences, then your band score is going to be quite low. On the other hand, if you use a lot of synonyms, if you're constantly using good quality vocabulary, good words, quality words, then you will be able to go for a higher band score. Your lexical resources directly affect the band score you get because that is one of the easiest things to judge when it comes to your speaking. As opposed to even your structure, pronunciation or even grammar, the vocabulary, the words that you use are very easy to mark. If you use simple words, if you use a lot of simple vocabulary, your band score is going to remain average or low. But if you go for better words, quality synonyms, then your band score is certainly going to be high. All right. The next marking criteria that you have to pay attention to is grammatical range and accuracy. You have to ensure that you're using correct grammar when you are speaking. Now, when it comes to grammatical range and accuracy, you don't really have to give a lot of focus here unless your grammar is really bad. If your target is a 6.5 or above, let's say somewhere between 6.5 and a 7.5, you can easily get to that band range without overtly focusing on grammar. Your grammar has to be correct, but it doesn't have to be perfect. With a few mistakes here and there, you can still go for a high band score. But if your grammar knowledge is low and you're making a lot of grammatical errors, then you really need to focus on this section and make sure that your grammar is at least average in order to get to a band 6.5 or above. Finally, you have pronunciation. Now, especially here in Sri Lanka, we do make quite a bit of pronunciation errors. But if you can practice and improve your pronunciation, then getting to a high band score won't be a challenge. Grammar and pronunciation are two things that you can develop with consistent practice, but it does take a bit of time. Lexical resources, coherence and fluency are three things that will not take you too much time. You can actually work on these and improve these in a relatively short period of time. So for those of you who are planning to do your exam in a few weeks or even a month, then you need to focus on coherence and fluency as well as lexical resources. But if you do have 2 to 3 months available, then definitely start focusing on your grammar and pronunciation as well. Finally, coming to the marking criteria of fluency. Fluency, like I told you, is the most important marking criteria that will get you marks, that will also make you lose marks. Fluency means how confidently you can speak the language. If you're constantly getting stuck, if you're using a lot of fillers, if you're repeating the same words over and over again, and if you're unable to continue after a certain point, it means you have low fluency. You're not able to speak confidently. You're not able to speak under any topic or answer any question without losing your flow of words. For example, if I were to speak about a trip that I went on and I started in this way, I said, one of the best trips that I have been on is there's more ers and ums in that speech than what I'm actually saying. More than my content, I'm filling it with fillers. But if I start and I say, one of the most amazing places that I traveled to last year was Sigiriya in Sri Lanka. Sigiriya rock, aside from being one of the most beautiful natural wonders of Sri Lanka, also happened to be the place that King Kashyapa chose to create his palace following the murder of his father. So you see, we are able to speak without using any fillers or getting stuck. That will get you to a higher band score as opposed to getting stuck and using multiple fillers continuously. If you can fix your fluency, you can easily get to a band 6 or above. You don't even need to focus on anything else. Even more than your vocabulary, even more than your structure, if you can speak about any topic, if you can answer any question with confidence without getting stuck, then you can easily elevate your band score. So in this video, we will discuss a few ways on how we can improve our fluency as well. Alright, so here are a few examples of part 1 questions. Let's look at the first one. Where are you from? Alright, when you're answering this type of question, we can easily say, I'm from Colombo. That's just one sentence. That just shows the examiner that you are a basic English speaker. You can just answer the question. But if you want to create an impression, if you want to show the examiner, look, I can not only answer the question in one sentence, I can elaborate on my answer because I am fluent in the English language. You can say, I come from Moratuwa, a beautiful location in the Colombo district. Moratuwa is famous for having lovely beaches, and it is also the most famous destination in Sri Lanka for the wood manufacturing industry. There we are. We spoke at least 4 sentences. Now, we don't have to elaborate in that detail, but still what we tried to do was show the examiner that we are confident, we are fluent, we can speak the language and answer any question in a confident way. Let's look at another question. What do you do for a living? You could simply answer this question by saying, I work as a doctor. Now again, that's just a one sentence answer. You're not elaborating your answer. So what you can say here is, currently I'm working as a teacher at ABC International School. I've been a teacher for over a decade and teaching is my passion as well as my career. Look, just 2 sentences. But that in itself shows that you stand out from the average speaker. And that is what you want to do in this section. You want to create a great first impression for the examiner. Similarly, here's a list of part 1 questions that you can practice. Take a look at these, screenshot these questions and try to practice them by yourself. Always keep in mind, don't answer in just one sentence or one word. Always try to elaborate into at least 2 to 5 sentences. One of the most easiest ways to do that is to give a reason for your answer. For example, if you are asked the question, do you prefer living in a big city or a small town? You could simply answer, I prefer living in a big city. But if you add a reason to that, now you're elaborating your answer. So you could say, I prefer living in a big city because, so you can add that word because to show that you're giving a reason and say, because I like to go and watch movies, I like to go to the supermarkets, and everything that I need is conveniently located in a big city. I also like the fact that there are many places that I can go to in terms of restaurants, malls, cinemas, gymnasiums, and I can enjoy myself more in a big city as opposed to a small town. Do you understand what I mean? So instead of waiting for the examiner to ask you a reason, or instead of making it awkward by just giving a one sentence answer, you could elaborate your answer by giving a reason for what you're saying. Another way to elaborate an answer is by giving your personal experiences. This is very easy, especially in part 1, because all the questions are anyway about yourself. So for example, if you are asked the question, How often do you travel by public transportation like buses or trains? You could either simply answer by saying, I travel every day by bus. Again, it's just a one sentence answer, not very quality. It does not show your confidence or your fluency. So what you can do is bring in your personal experience. You can say, I travel by train every day. It is the cheapest mode of transport and I've been using it for the past 10 years. I live right next to the train station. It's just a 50-meter walk from my house. So I can catch the train to absolutely any part of the country, and I can travel at less than 10 times the cost than someone using private transport and at least 3 or 4 times less than someone using the bus. So I believe that train is the best mode of transport in Sri Lanka. Look at that. I gave my personal experience. I live right next to the station. I've been traveling in it for over 10 years. I've given my personal experience and elaborated on this answer. So those are the two techniques, giving reasons using the word because or adding your personal experiences are two techniques that will help you elaborate your part 1 answer. Then we look at a part 2 question. Look at how your cue card has been given. Read this question. It says, describe a piece of art that you like. What is the work of art? When did you first see it? What do you know about it? Explain why you like it. So they have given you the topic and they have also given you a few pointers to talk about. When you're giving an answer to your part 2 question, you need to have a structure. You need to have an order in which you give your answer. So when you get that paper and pencil, write down the structure, introduction, body, and conclusion. What are you going to say in your introduction? What are you going to say in your body? And what are you going to say in your conclusion? Just jot that down in point form. That is what you do when you get that paper and pencil. The easiest way to elaborate on your short talk is to use stories. Stories of popular incidents or people or your personal experiences. In this question, they have directly asked, describe a piece of art that you like. So here you can bring in your personal experiences without a problem. But if the question is not focused on you specifically, then you can bring in examples of popular incidents and people as well. If you use generic examples that people know, general knowledge examples, this will really help you connect with the examiner as well, because the examiner will know the example that you're talking about and they will think, wow, I know this example, I relate to it, I understand it. And then obviously the examiner will feel more connected to your answer, which will result in you getting a high band score. So when we speak, it's all about making that connection. So personal experiences are great, but if you can use examples that are more well known, generic or general knowledge examples, that will be much better. When you're giving a good introduction, one thing that you can do is start off with a quote. For example, if you look at this topic, describe a book that you recently read. You can easily start this topic by saying, we've all heard the phrase, reading makes a full man. Look at that quote. That shows that you are well read, you're familiar with the English language, you're confident, you're fluent with the English language. If you can use quotes like this, it will really help you get to a higher band score. So there are so many other techniques that we can use to elaborate our speaking. If you want to learn all of these in detail, and also if you want to practice your speaking skills, make sure to call us on the number below in order to sign up for our 10-day IELTS preparation program. Or you could also purchase our video program or a video course and get access to all our material. So make sure to give us a call on the number below. Alright, with that we move on to part 3. Like I told you before, part 3 questions are focused on the same theme as the part 2 questions. So for example, if part 2 was on reading books, then your part 3 questions are also going to be under that same theme. So let's look at a few questions under the theme of reading books. Look at these questions. Do people in your country like to read books? What are the most popular types of books? Do you think it is important for people to read books? In your opinion, do people read as much nowadays as they did in the past? Have a look at the other questions as well. You will see that none of these pertain to what you actually spoke. Instead, they are under the theme of books. Here, try not to use as many personal examples. Always try to give more generic answers. Speak about the society or the community as a whole and try to use general knowledge examples as much as possible, because here they are not really focused on you or your experiences. They are focusing more on a generic setting. So the best way to elaborate your answers here is to use stories, but general knowledge or generic stories of popular incidents or people. That's the best way to elaborate on part 3 questions. Finally, let me give you one last tip as to how to build your fluency in order to answer any of these questions or speak confidently in your short talk or impromptu speech. You need to record and review. Every single day, choose a different topic. Text us on the number below to get a list of 30 speaking topics absolutely free. You can use these and practice every single day for 30 days straight. What you do is you select a topic and you speak on it for 2 minutes. While you speak, you record yourself. When you record yourself, you understand all the mistakes that you make. You review the video that you did. You count the number of fillers that you have. You see if you have a proper structure. See where you get stuck. Understand how you can use better vocabulary or even better examples. The next day, when you make your second video, make sure that you're using less fillers, better vocabulary, better examples. Do the same thing on the third day, same thing on the fourth day. The more you keep doing this, the better your fluency is going to be. If you can answer the questions without getting stuck, if you can deliver your impromptu speech without using fillers, trust me, your band score will be 6.5 or above in no time. But you need to be consistent and practice every day. But trust me, if you can improve your fluency by doing this one exercise, you won't even have to worry about anything else. Alright, so with that, we are done with today's video. I hope you got a good understanding about the 3 sections of the speaking test, the 4 marking criteria of the speaking test, and also how you can elaborate your answers in each part of the speaking test, as well as the one technique on how to improve your fluency and be a confident communicator in English. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to share with your friends, comment down below how this helped you out and also what more you would like to learn from our channel. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also put a thumbs up on the video. If you're interested in joining our 10-day IELTS preparation program or purchasing our video course, then make sure to text us on the number below. So till our next video, keep practicing.